My name is Endia DeCordova. I have been with the college since November of 2005. When I came on board, I was the Public Relations Associate, and I was in that role for at least 5 years. And from there was promoted to the Associate Director of Institutional Advancement, and have recently been appointed Associate Dean of the Institutional Advancement. My background, I grew up in Bloomfield, Connecticut, born and raised. My parents are of West Indian descent. Both my parents are from Jamaica, and they moved here. My dad was actually a migrant farm worker and was stationed in Florida. Then he came up to Connecticut to do work, and he would go home to Jamaica every summer to give money to our family there, and then he was the one that came back to America to kind of work for the family and bring money back home. He ended up staying in Connecticut. There's a group of West Indian migrant farm workers that have grown tremendously to make Hartford the number 2 area in the country for West Indian Jamaicans specifically. And my dad and my mom met here in Connecticut, and I have 4 siblings altogether, so including myself, it's 5 of us. I graduated from Bloomfield High School and went on to Morgan State University in Baltimore, Maryland, which is a HBCU, historically black college university. Graduated from there, and my dream of staying in the Maryland, D.C. area was short-lived because, like all most college students, you look for money, and it's like, okay, there's no more money. So what do? You go home to mommy and dad. So that's what I did. I left Baltimore, came back to Connecticut, and from there I started working for different organizations. I got my degree in communications. My passion has always been public relations, working with the community, marketing. I always thought that initially I wanted to be a news anchor, the person in front of the camera. But then I did more research and looked at where are they getting their information from? How are they finding out what's quote-unquote news? And so I found that the public relations person was really instrumental in terms of telling the story of the organization, getting that message out. And so that was something that I thought I could do well. So I pursued that in between looking for other jobs, doing other things. I started my career at the Salvation Army of Greater Hartford, where I was the Director of Public Relations and Marketing. And then from there, I started working on my master's degree at the University of Hartford. From there, I was hired here at Manchester Community College, November 2005, as a PR associate. And then I graduated with my master's in business administration, my MBA, with a focus in marketing management in 2009. And that's where we are today.
All right, so tell me then, let's get to the point of coming to MCC. What was the reason you decided to pick MCC as a place to apply for a job?
Well, MCC, to be honest, I was applying for a lot of different types of positions, and I did get a variety of different types of interviews. But what I found here at MCC is the community of learners. People are very passionate about education, and it is not just something you see in a brochure. Individuals really walk the talk. So they're like, or talk the walk. Right. They are very passionate about what they do. And I felt like that was something that I could do being here, contributing to that community of learners, and also really telling the story of that. I was very young in my career, so I was very impressed with how the organization was structured. For example, when I came for my interview, I've never been interviewed by a panel of 8 people.
Oh, tell us about that, yeah. Tell us
The
about
search committee process,
yeah.
That was so unfamiliar to me.
Right.
The other interviews that I went on, it was just a one-on-one interview. Normally you meet with the director of that area, or your quote-unquote boss, and then you would meet with the HR director. And that would be the extent of that. But here, it was such a process where, you got the phone call at first, and they're like, okay, be ready for this. You will be meeting several individuals, and you're like, okay. Then when you walk into the room, a conference room. Right. At the time, it was a conference room in President Dalby's office. Right. And I walked into that conference room, and you see all these individuals sitting around the table. It could be quite intimidating.
Did you use something as you came in?
No, they didn't. They just a welcome.
Questions?
Questions were in front of you.
Okay, yeah.
Right. So I had questions
in
in front of me, right. So when I came into the conference room, sat down, the questions were in front of me. However, it could be very intimidating if you're not used to that process. But once you got through it, you're like, okay, if I could get through this, I could pretty much get through anything.
Right. That was a test.
Yeah, it was really much a test. And so I think that was one of the things that attracted me. The campus was beautiful at the time. I know, a lot of it was before Great Path Academy was built, but it was a beautiful, oh my God. Yeah. And it was a beautiful campus. That was something that really attracted me. And when you walked in, the artwork on the walls and what you feel when you come on campus, it doesn't feel institutionalized, even though it's a place of higher learning. It's a place of higher learning, so it doesn't feel, cold. It's very welcoming, and it was something that I felt like I could definitely be a part of.
What was your first impression? That's kind of the campus feel. I share that opinion with you. Your first impression of some of the other staff members that you met as you go in your first week of work. What was that like, meeting all the new staff members that you're going to work with?
Everyone was very friendly, very willing to get to know me. I was a new face on campus. Right. To be honest, there weren't a lot of African American, like a lot of minorities, but the ones that were there, very much wanting to say, who are you? What are your interests? What are you doing here? And everyone pretty much on campus was very welcoming. I was told to just jump into things. So attend College Senate, attend at the time it was called Faculty Senate, attend meetings on campus, learn the culture, get to know people. And that's what I did, not only because it was part of my job as a PR associate, but also because it was a way for me to really get acclimated and understand the culture that I would be a part of. So I would meet all types of people. Everyone was just so friendly. You'd walk in the hallway and people are stopping you and having these conversations. It was easy to build relationships. Right. It wasn't hard. It wasn't like other environments where some of my friends would work and they would not know individuals that worked right next to them. Of course, they would know their name, but not really know them. And I felt like here, people were very willing to reach out and get to know you, which I thought was very comforting. And somewhere you can see yourself working for a long time. That was another trend. You talk to people, they're like, oh, I've been here for 15 years or 25 years. I'm like, at one job? You don't hear that too often. So that was something that stay here. People that stay here, that this is part of who they are as an individual, They don't really separate work and life too much. Work becomes their life because they're so involved, and they bring their families here, and the community is here, and so it's very much a part of who they are as an individual. So it was very interesting to me.
Great. How about early memories the memories of the first Faculty Senate meetings, maybe administrative meetings you attended? Anything you can share with us?
Early meetings. Okay, my meetings with I used to meet very closely with President Dalby. Because of my role. Right. And he's very by the book, very professional. He knows what he wants and was willing to tell me exactly how he wanted it. Right. Faculty Senate, to me, was very interesting because it was one of those democratic processes where you see people they're talking about something, and someone was like, well, I have a comment about that, and I want to talk about that. Right. And these meetings will go on and on. You're like, okay, can we come to a decision? Everybody had the right to say something. Some of these meetings will go on for hours. A discussion can go on for hours. And what I respected about that process is that, you can be heard. So if you came to that forum and you had a strong opinion about something and you weren't afraid to say it in front of everybody, that's the key. Not to be afraid to say it. Right. Your voice will be heard. Now, whether or not they're going to move forward with your recommendation, I think what I found is that they're always trying to work towards some type of consensus, knowing that you have to compromise somewhere, somehow. But I feel like people's voices were heard at that type of forum. Yeah. I got involved in the Minority Caucus when I first came on board, which was a different type of format. It was also a format where people's voices were heard, but that focus was primarily on what can we do to help our students of color. How can we uplift our faculty and staff members of color? And, at the time when the Minority Caucus was formed, the campus was a different culture to what it was when I came on board in 2005. So the mission changed a little bit, and you can see that was what we were kind of going through, that struggle of what should we focus on. Before was we need to make sure we have enough of us on campus. Now it's we're here. What do we do with that? So that was interesting in terms of that format. And then, CCP meetings that I would attend and all the different forums. I think one common thread amongst all the different groups I just described, including with President Dalby and my meetings with him, is that there's an opportunity for you to express your opinions and be heard. Okay. Whether or not people take what you say or do what you say, I feel like here on this campus, that is something that people value.
Right. I agree. How about things that were done or the way they were done when you first arrived here compared to today? Do you see any change that's happened?
Oh, yeah. When I first started, most decisions were made at the administrative level. Budgets weren't really discussed publicly. There was that hierarchy in terms of how our organization was structured. So a lot of decisions were made, and that probably contradict what I just said, but I'll explain that difference in a minute. But I think a lot of the decisions were made on the administrative level, and then they were kind of, okay, this is what's going to happen. Right. So what I just said about the forums that occurred on campus, Faculty Senate, Minority Caucus, CCP meetings, those discussions occurred, and how that process works is whatever occurred in those meetings will oftentimes go up to the dean. Right. So your dean was your representative in this old structure. So the dean was a representative, and the goal was to bring that to your dean or that management individual that could bring it to the cabinet. At the time, I don't think it was called the cabinet. I think it was called PAC, maybe, or not PAC. I'm not sure what it was called. I don't remember. Was it PAC? Yeah. And it was closed-door meetings where administration would meet and discuss and make decisions, and then those decisions would be carried out more or less. Now is very much an inclusive environment. We've even changed our core values here at the college, where shared learning, shared understanding, shared leadership, and that's something that individuals really take to heart, and there's ownership behind that. So, decisions are now no longer made amongst the top tier of the institution. It's now, regardless of your role here at the college, you can have a say. So if you're a custodian, all the way up to an EA, an adjunct faculty member, to a dean or faculty or staff member, you can have a say in terms of governance, in terms of what occurs on campus. Now budget conversations are open. You can hear what's happening with the budget and what changes are occurring. I think our system, not to say that we're utopia now, but I think what can be tweaked is now allowing more people to feel like they are part of that process. I think that's a slow process because you still have a lot of people who are used to the old way of doing things. So they still don't feel all the way comfortable attending those types of meetings or saying anything. They still feel like there's only a certain amount of people or certain people on this campus that have power and control everyone else. But I think as we continue to push I don't want to say agenda, but push that agenda that it is open, it is inclusive, that more people will start to get on board. And as you have more new people come on board and see that this is the way things are moving along, the culture will naturally start to change more in that direction.
Right.
So,
right, I agree. What's your image of the college? Your sense of students and faculty administration, and do you see any change in that, other than what you just described, and the general image of the college out into the community? How do you feel about it?
I think now the image of the college, individuals see the college as wanting to connect with the community, wanting to partner with the community.
Yeah.
We have our new MCC on Main Arts and Education Center that will be opening this summer, which is right on Main Street, downtown Manchester. And the town is excited about that. The mayor of Manchester, he goes on meetings and he's talking about MCC is coming into town, and this is what they're doing. They're coming into downtown Manchester. So it's no longer we're the college on the hill, the ivory tower. We're now part of the community, and I think community is in our name, and we've always had a vision of wanting to be part of the community. And I think we've always been part of the community, from all the different things that we do, from community gardens to all the events that we hold on campus. But I think, by extending ourselves into the community that way, it's a different approach, and it's very innovative. You see a lot of other cities across the country that are doing that are building institutions of higher ed in the core of where everything is, and it's really making it accessible to individuals that would have never thought that college was accessible to them. Right here in Manchester, there's a whole community outside that are underserved, underprivileged, and they may not see MCC as a viable opportunity, even though we always say that it is. But I think having that two-way communication, really going out to the community, talking to them, and not just talking at them, talking to them and listening to what they have to say, and then implementing that is one way that we've changed, and I think that's a direction that we continue to go in. We have our Institute for Community Engagement, which is a new initiative, and even with that, allowing us to have more dialogue with members of our community so that they, again, feel part of the college community, that we're your college. We want to hear from you. Yeah. And I think that message is clearer now than ever before.
Right. So would you say that has been the major change in the last few years?
Absolutely.
Taking the community connections just that one step further.
Absolutely. I think that, we've always wanted to connect with our communities. I can only reference President Dalby because that was who I worked under, and he's always, connected with individuals in the community. We've always had chamber meetings where individuals from the campus were representatives on those different boards. We had a speakers bureau where we would go out and talk to the community about different expertise and skill sets in different industry. However, it was that one-way communication. We would go out and we'll say, we're the expert at this. We can do this the best way. Come to us, But it was never that, let's take a step back and hear what the community has to say. And how are we responding back to the community? So having that two-way communication is key, and I think that's the direction that we're going in now, versus just saying we're good at it, come to us. Now we are good at it, but we need you to be good. Without you, we can't be who we are. So we need to have that dialogue, and I think that's definitely the direction that we've been going in over the past couple of years.
Okay, great. Any significant moments at MCC that really stand out to you, whether it's people, programs, events, something you want to tell us about?
And then this might sound so hokey. Commencement is always
Okay.
Something that is just one of the proudest moments, and being able to be part of that is always something that I feel good about. Seeing students that you've worked with or passed in the hallways, and that sense of accomplishment, and knowing that somehow, some way you had a part of that, whether it was me telling the story of the organization or now helping to provide a scholarship to a student. I had a part in that. It may not have a direct part of that, but indirectly, I helped that student get to this day. Yeah. And that's always a good feeling. Commencement's always one of those things. Dr. Braithwaite, when he came on campus, that was one of those moments where it was like, wow, he's here. He's at MCC.
Right.
This gentleman who was like a world-renowned author and just a very intelligent and humble individual. And I had the opportunity to meet him and talk to him and engage him. And his semester here, he was a visiting faculty member here. And that was one of those memories where it would always stick with me that, you know, I was fortunate enough to be here during the tenure when he was here. So that was another one of those moments.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think commencement is one of those things where
All right.
I always remember.
What about colleagues or students? Anybody who left a lasting impression on you?
Oh my goodness, there's so many people. Lillian Ortiz, she was the dean of institutional advancement for 12 years. And when I came on board, she was my dean. And Lillian worked really hard. She was one of those hard workers, but she also laughed and she had fun. And that was one thing I loved about her. You know, there were times where our jobs can be very overwhelming, but what I got from her is just that sense of finding humor in things and not allowing things to really consume you. Just roll with the flow with a smile, you know, a little Latin flair. You don't even have to be Latin, okay?
Right.
But she really had an impact on me. Margaret, who used to work in Dr. Dalby's office. Yeah. Margaret Shank. I used to go in her office and like, Margaret, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I know this is a history video, but I don't care. I'm just like, I would go to her and just express myself. It was one of those things where I was comfortable. I could talk to her, and she would say, Endia, it's going to be okay. And then she'll guide me and help me deal with things. You know, I really enjoyed her. You know, there's so many people. Dean Carter was a mentor to me. He was very instrumental. Von Seal, when I first came on board, she kind of took me in her wings, said, baby girl, we're going out to lunch, you know. There are so many people. Andy Paterna, who I took his class, and Andy's one of those guys where you are just phenomenal. So, I mean, just a nice guy. And I'm not just saying that because you're sitting in front of me. You're probably going to edit this out.
We are.
Andy, who else? Oh my God, there's so many people. My staff, and I know you don't know any of these people, or Chuck probably doesn't know any of these folks. You're going to probably edit this out too because I just said Chuck's name and I probably shouldn't have. But, you know, Lynette and Sarah and, you know, I have some wonderful people that work with me.
Yeah.
Dr. Glickman, she's been phenomenal.
Right.
I've learned so much from her in terms of working with her, her leadership style, and she's very much entrepreneurial in her thinking, and that really inspires me, you know. So listening to her, I like watching her and listening to her. I learn a lot by just sitting back and taking things in. But there's so many people that have impacted me. Duncan Harris, Duncan and I, you know, he was one of those people as well. I kind of brought me in and put me under his wings and really helped me along the way as well. But there's so many people. There's so many people.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel horrible because I'm probably forgetting someone, but there's so many people. And one thing I like about this campus is that it's not hard to build relationships. If you don't know anyone on here, it's because you don't want to know anyone on here here. Because everyone is very much open. Most people are very open, and it's just me too. This is just my personality. I'm one that if you see me, hi, how are you? Yeah, I'm not, you know.
One of the things we've heard from many people who spoke is that there's a certain type of spirit in this culture that is very supportive. And I'm assuming you are feeling the same way.
Yes.
From the day you got here.
Yes. Just very supportive and wanting to see you do well.
Yeah.
People are very sincere, not a lot of airs.
Right.
people sincerely want you to do well.
Yeah.
Even working with the MCC Foundation Board,
Right.
these are community volunteers who are passionate about the college
Right.
in terms of helping us raise funds. And they are individuals that just want to see us do well and are very sincere about that.
Yeah.
There are just so many people, whether they work here or they're associated with the college some way, somehow.
Right.
That's definitely the culture of this college.
Yeah, I agree. Funny experiences. Anything you could share with us over the time that you've been here that
Oh my God.
was really kind of out of the ordinary?
Funny experience.
That you can laugh at now, maybe at the time was too tense.
Let me think. Funny experiences. God, that is a lot. Okay. Funny experience, I would say was, you're going to laugh at me because this is a funny experience.
Right.
When I was the subject of the wellness, I was the subject of a health and wellness class.
Right.
And I had to lose weight. That was the goal, was
Right.
to lose weight. You have to report out on everything that you eat, and I was having a rough week, and you see a lot of items on there that shouldn't be there. Alcoholic beverages.
Yeah.
And the class were like, "What are you doing? This, you can't."
Students would call you out on, right?
Students would call me out, and this one professor, I will not say his name, he would say, there's other things that you can drink. You don't necessarily have to go down that way. Maybe you go down this way. And that sounds horrible. It makes me seem like I'm something, I need a program or something.
Yeah.
I don't. But that was a funny experience.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Homecoming. There was our homecoming dinner, our alumni homecoming dinner last year.
Yeah.
And we had the cougar, our cougar come in, dressed up, started to do the Macarena. So I'm like, oh God, this is going to be horrible. We have all these people, no one's going to get up and do the Macarena. He started doing the Macarena, then here comes Dr. Glickman, she starts joining in, and then all these people are getting up, doing the Macarena. That was a funny moment.
Wow.
You're like, okay, this actually worked,
Yeah, I could easily have gone the other way.
But they embraced it, and that was a fun moment.
It's great.
There's some